What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Roto-Grinders MLB Crunch Time. I'm your host for today, TJ Zwarich, joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. It's the Triple T formation today. First up, I got my guy, Shiver Me Timbo, Tasteful Tides. Tim Buell, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Good to see you both. It's a pretty interesting main slate we got today. Definitely a lot of different ways you can go at pitching and with hitting. So it's a really good tournament slate. It's kind of a tough slate for cash games, but it's definitely a great tournament slate. Yeah, I'm excited to break it down with you guys.
Gross but fun. That's how I kind of felt about when I was looking at this slate. I don't feel comfortable with anything, but it does feel pretty fun. Joining us as well to help us break it down is Taylor Smith. Tay Bojangles. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm good. Yeah, it is a weird slate. The pitching is particularly bad, but I feel okay about it. Some of the stacks are also somewhat gross once again. So yeah, should be fun. I think. I'm hoping it'll be a good one, man.
People in chat already asking for some Spidey bombs. I'll drop a Spidey bomb every 50 likes, so make sure you're smashing that like button. And we'll get some home run calls from Taylor and Tim as well after we're done going position by position. Before we go through some questions, and there's also never been a better time to sign up for Roto-Grinders Premium with NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, MLB, and WNBA. And we've got an option for whatever level you're looking for. Get yourself a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That's savings of $250 instead of buying 6 individual months of combo premium. You can get your first month of Roto-Grinders Premium for $40 off for a limited time. And those that want a test run before buying can dip their toes in the water with our 3-day pass at $19.99. Check the link in our description for more info right down there. And if you're building lineups today, you should check out SimLabs. It's the expert DFS lineup generation tool from Roto-Grinders and Fantasy Labs, now available for NBA, PGA, and MLB. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest type you're playing. You can access SimLabs with Roto-Grinders Premium subscriptions, so be sure to grab one. And there's also a new feature on DraftKings, a little game called Pick 6, and we got a new Firefox extension. Premium subscribers can now use the Roto-Grinders DraftKings Pick 6 browser extension on Fireworks to have our premium props and pick and projections overlaid on screen so you can quickly and easily find the best lines with the best value and make expert picks all in one place. Download it on Firefox today. Tim, you're talking with some people in chat talking about how tough pitching is today. Why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown?
Yeah, pitching is incredibly tough today. I want to say guys like, Grayson Rodriguez, Luis Heel, Nathan Eovaldi, those 3 guys are like your top 3 options, but I don't even really know if that's true. Rodriguez has an incredibly tough matchup. He's 9,700, so you get no discount on him. Like, yeah, he's a really good real life pitcher, but this matchup is incredibly tough. He does not project well. Whether you're using RG projections or the bats projections, Rodriguez really doesn't project all that well. So I'm not really convinced that he's like a cash game must. This certainly is not certainly not a tournament must. It's a very, very challenging slate. I'm fine with the Christian Scott chalk just because he's so cheap and he's got a fantastic matchup against the Rockies in New York. So I mean, definitely I'm fine with that in all formats. I'm fine. That's like the one pitcher that I'm sold on. I'm fine with that just because of his price. But after that, it's really, really ugly. I do want to say one thing about Edward Cabrera. He's a pretty good real life pitcher, but he has super tough, bad control. So I would be getting to both sides of this game quite a bit if I was MMEing. Just because like the Reds do strike out quite a bit. He's only 6,900, so he could absolutely smash this price tag, or he could get absolutely lit up by this really, really potent Reds offense. So if I was making multiple teams, I would be getting exposure to both Cabrera and a Red stack. So
I just went heavy on the Reds today, I went with the Cabrera full fade just because of that ownership.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate that. I don't really hate that at all. But I would say I mean, I would probably have a little bit of Cabrera just because that price is just so cheap, allows you to do a lot of things. But the guy that I'm ultimately landing on, at least for single entry, is Scott and Gavin Williams. Actually, 7,800. Not a a really good price. Not the best matchup, but pretty neutral matchup. But I just love the discount that he allows. I think he's a relatively safe option. I there's quite a few bats that I want to pay up for, so I don't really want to spend money on $9,600 Eovaldi or $9,700 Rodriguez, and I think Cutter Crawford is really not a good play today. So for me, it was live in that 7K range, and that's what I'm going to do.
I mean, obviously it's Christian Scott as your cash play on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings he's one of them. But I actually prefer Gavin Williams as well as my SP2, technically SP1 based on price, but Gavin Williams and Scott is my preferred pairing for single entry and cash games as well on DraftKings. Taylor, how about you? Who are you liking today from a Pittsburgh perspective? I basically agree with everything Tim said except for one, and that's I love Cutter Crawford for tournaments. I don't think you touch him in a single entry or cash, but 5% owned for Cutter Crawford is something I want to get overweight on tournaments. Other than that, I'm basically on the exact same page. What about you?
Yeah, I think you can kind of cycle in between everyone. Like Scott, I think is pretty good chalk just because of the matchup, and he's supposed to be a good pitcher. He was over 30% strikeouts at like every level of the minors. So facing Colorado at home at a cheap salary, I love that. Everyone else is kind of flimsy. Like I'm playing Cabrera because he's cheap. Grayson Rodriguez, I'm getting to a bit just because he's, I guess, the best pitcher on the slate in terms of talent. And the Yankees lineup is a little bit watered down once you get past the first 2 or 3 hitters. It's not the best lineup they can run out there if they're healthy. So don't mind that. I think Andrew Abbott is worth a look also. In tournaments, he's 8,500 on DK facing Miami. So I think we'll talk about the Marlins bats again, but even in this park, I think Abbott's okay. Like last season, he was a pretty good strikeout guy. He'll have the platoon edge over Jazz, so that's helpful for him. I think even Luis Gil is viable in tournaments at 8,800 just because of the uncertainty and the lack of high-end options on the slate. He's been really bad lately since his super hot start. He's facing Baltimore, so not an easy spot. But we saw earlier in the year in particular, his strikeout stuff is pretty impressive if he's on. Obviously, the control's wonky. He's essentially a more expensive Edward Cabrera, so I can see why you play Cabrera over him at the discount, but I think Gil has some upside, and by default is worth a look. Probably more in large field than anything else, but still in my pool overall.
All right, I like it. Let's take it with you, Taylor, and give me some stacks. I'll see where we are for likes quick. We are at 49, so not quite at the first Spidey bomb. A couple more people hitting the like button. I'll drop them every 50 likes, maybe after Taylor's done with stacks.
Yeah, so I think the Phillies might be the most popular offense today against Mitch Spence at home. They've gotten healthier with Harper and Schwarber back. You can pay down for pitching and pay up for them. I think that's decent enough chalk on the hitting side. I don't mind Miami either. I mentioned Abbott as a pitching option. I think he's also a fly ball homer-prone lefty. So in this park, Miami once again looks like a good value stack. I'll be on today. Oakland on the other side of the Philly game. I don't mind them. Just kind of another cheap stack. This Phillies pitcher earlier was projecting for some ownership. Tyler Phillips. I'm not sure how owned he will be because he's kind of a rando non-prospect, but he's cheap and facing Oakland. I'm on the A's side of that pretty firmly. I don't think I have a single Phillips lineup today. Texas looks good against Arrighetti. Arrighetti's another of those kind of cheap strikeout pitchers you can play today, but Texas has plenty of lefties in the lineup against him. He's had really bad control against lefties in particular. Seager and the rest of them grade out well, even if they haven't hit quite as well as they did last season. Milwaukee is a stack against Mitchell Parker, I think is okay. They've hit pretty good power against lefties. Parker's been good, but I think he's been a bit lucky so far this season. Hitters like Contreras, Ortiz, Adames, and Hoskins grade out particularly well against lefties. So don't mind that. And then Kansas City going into Fenway once again. Cutter Crawford's good, but reverse split righty. Fenway plays up righty power. Hitters like Bobby Witt, Sal Perez are going to grade out well here once again. So another slate with plenty of offense to consider. I'm primarily building around Philly, Oakland, and Miami, but you can make a case for just about everyone today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Tim, how about you? Who you liking in stacks?
Yeah, so the Phillies are my top stack. Mitch Spence has allowed, I believe it's over 63% hard hits to left-handed hitters so far this season. So I love getting guys like Schwarber and Harper, Stott, Marsh, even Garrett Stubbs as like a value catcher. So I'm really high on the Phillies today. I think they're the clear and obvious top overall stack. I mentioned a little bit earlier how I kind of like the Reds against Cabrera. Like if Cabrera doesn't have his top stuff, the Reds are like a dual threat. They got plenty of power and plenty of speed, so they can really rack up fantasy points in a big way. So if Cabrera is going to be a popular SP2 on DK, then I absolutely love getting to the Reds quite a bit. I like attacking this Fenway Park game on both sides. I think it's really kind of decent hitting weather as well. So I think that's a really solid option. And then I don't really like Andrew Abbott today, so I don't mind getting to some of these Marlins. I think they're a good cheaper stack on the cheap end.
I like it. Let's start going position by position here. But before that, we do have enough likes for the first Spidey Bomb. You can get him for plus 475. It's Lawrence Butler batting leadoff today for Oakland as Spidey Bomb number 1. Next one will be at 100 likes. Tim, why don't you start us off with the catcher position today?
Yeah, catcher's pretty bad. I think you can go a few different ways in cash games. I like Garrett Stubbs at 2,800. It's obviously, not, I mean, he's batting ninth. It's not a good leadoff lineup spot, but he's cheap. And for cash games, I don't think I can really pay up for guys like Contreras or Perez. I think even Langeliers is too expensive. I guess you could potentially get up to Stevenson at 38, but still, I'd rather punt. I'd rather punt catcher and cash and just go down to Stubbs at 2,800. There are guys like Fortes, who's the min price, against Abbott. He's all right, but really, this is kind of like an only in stacks position for me. And then in cash, I just want to punt it with Stubbs.
All right, Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, Langeliers is my favorite by quite a bit. Power hitting catcher for Oakland, hitting fourth. I think he's hitting fourth. So I like that. I mentioned the Brewers against Parker. William Contreras is quite pricey, but he's also been excellent this season, particularly against lefties. So I like that quite a bit. Sal Perez is still a bit underpriced relative to where he's been all season. Christian Scott is the guy I have a lot of, but Colorado as a stack is viable, just going against that chalk in a large field tournament. So Elias Diaz for Colorado at a sub 4K salary, I think is fine. And Tyler Stevenson, still under K, in the heart of the Cincinnati order, looks good.
All right, take us to first base.
First base, the guy I have the most here is Bryce Harper by a pretty decent margin. He's expensive, but worth it, I think, in this spot at home against Mitch Spence. If you're going a bit cheaper, I think the Marlins, Josh Bell and Jake Berger look really good. Berger in particular against lefties over the past couple of years has been excellent. Rhys Hoskins in your Brewers stack, Vinny P in your Royal stack. I think Juan Yepez as a punt for the Nationals. Dallas Keuchel's pitching for the Brewers, so kind of buried that. I think Washington's kind of interesting as a sneaky stack, so Yepez fits nicely into that.
And Tim, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Taylor. Bryce Harper is my favorite. He's in both my cash game team and my single entry team. If you don't have the salary, then Jake Berger would be my next guy, followed by Candelario at 4,500. I think Pete Alonso is super interesting for tournaments. I think he's going to get, what is he getting? He's getting under 10% ownership right now. So I think that's a pretty good play for GPPs. I think that's a good call by Taylor on Juan Yepes if you want to really, really punt the position. But if you do want to save, I would prefer going to Jake Berger. And then I think Spencer Steer is a pretty interesting play. I'm kind of surprised at how high owned he is going to be. So maybe the Reds are getting steamed in terms of ownership because I thought Cabrera was going to be pretty popular too. So maybe a lot of people are going to do both sides of this game. I'm not sure, but definitely wouldn't be shying away from Cincinnati today.
Take us to second.
So I think the top overall play at second is Bryson Stott at 4,800. I like him a little bit better than our more traditional guys like Jonathan India or Jose Altuve. I just really like getting to this Phillies team, so I really like Stott today. I gotta pull his home run odds real quick. He's going to be a tater. I'm just not sure what his odds are. Zach Geloff, I think, is pretty interesting at 3,400. He's a really good value. But second base to me is not really that good of a position. So this would be kind of really an only in stacks type position.
All right, Taylor, how about you?
Yeah, I think guys like Altuve and Semien are playable because they're not going to be owned at all. I think Stott is going to be popular as the spend up. So both of them look good at lower ownership. Getting a lot of Geloff, a little alarming how much Oakland I have, but I do like the spot for them and the value there. I'm not getting to a lot of bats in this Cleveland-Tampa game, but Brandon Lau is one I have quite a bit as a one-off, just a power hitter against Gavin Williams. I think looks pretty good as kind of a mid-range value. And we haven't talked about Boston a lot, but I think you can run on Seth Lugo. David Hamilton with second base shortstop eligibility is kind of a sneakier play that I think looks pretty good.
All right, take us to third.
Third base. I mentioned Berger at first. You can also play him at third. I think he's my favorite play at this position, all things considered. There's not a lot to spend on here besides Alec Bohm. And, Bohm's not my favorite way to spend money in the Phillies. So not getting to him a ton. I think Joey Ortiz looks good hitting second from Milwaukee. I don't mind punting with Brett Harris or Emmanuel Rivera from Oakland or Miami. Josh Smith, platoon advantage against Arrighetti looks interesting. And then I'll mention Alex Bregman once again. Evaldi's not a guy we're going to pick on a lot, but Houston is a high upside offense on this slate that's not going to get a whole lot of attention.
All right, Tim, who do you like at third?
Yeah, I mean, Kate Alari is my favorite, but I mean, I got to say, Jose Ramirez at 4%, I love quite a bit. So I think he's going to go super, super low owned. Love that as like a one-off play. If you're looking for cheap, Jake Berger is definitely the guy. Saw a question in chat about Josh Smith. I think he's a fantastic play at 4,200. And then one other punt I guess I would go with is Vargas for the Nationals at 2,500 if you really just want to full-on punt the position.
I like Rivera as well as a full-out punt, or and then where you're spending up for Jose Ramirez as a low-owned guy, I like Rafael Devers in that same spot, kind of the exact same thought process, just different players there. Who do you like at shortstop today, Tim?
Yeah, so shortstop's always so loaded. Again, another it's just like huge opportunity cost of this position. You really can't go wrong as long as you're spending up. This, we obviously do have Xavier Edwards, who had a really, really strong game yesterday, but I can't advocate for people spending down short when you got guys like Bobby Witt, Ellie De La Cruz, Gunnar Henderson, Corey Seager, and Trey Turner all on the slate, and Lindor. So, I mean, you have a really, really six absolutely elite shortstops, all in pretty good spots for the most part. My favorite's Trey Turner, followed by Ellie, but really you're splitting hairs in this top six. So, by all means, I think people should just be spending up at this position.
And even if you want to go to somebody super duper low owned, lefty doesn't matter to CJ Abrams, and Dallas Keuchel's terrible. So that's another guy I like projecting for less than 2% right now. Like, just such a stupidly strong position. How are you prioritizing it, Taylor?
Yeah, Turner is also my favorite, but I do love Seager. I mentioned the lefties against Arrighetti. One name Tim didn't mention that's on my radar is Willie Adames against Parker for the Brewers in the middle of that stack. But again, you really can't go wrong with Witt, Lindor, Henderson. I think Tovar is playable if you want to stack Colorado. So lots to like there. My favorite's Trey Turner, though, which is not a surprise, I guess.
12 likes away from Spidey Bomb number 2. Yeah, we got somebody asking about Adames in chat right now, and yeah, agreed. We do like Adames today. I actually like kind of all of Milwaukee, maybe more as a mini stack than a full stack, but the whole top 5 in their order, I really like today. Taylor, take us to the outfield.
Yeah, so I love the Lawrence Butler call. He's super cheap, leading off. I've been on Oakland at pretty much every position, so him with Rooker, Daz Cameron also in the outfield, JJ Bleday also in the outfield, so plenty of ways you can go with Oakland there. I think Schwarber is probably the top overall outfielder, right there with Judge, right there with Soto, Alvarez, usual suspects. Miami is a team on my radar again, so Brian De La Cruz with a platoon edge against Abbott. Jazz, lefty. I'm playing him again today. Dane Myers is hitting, I think, 5th for them. He's cheap. Decent numbers against lefties. And, the Mets, Brandon Nimmo's been good of late. Core piece in that stack. I'm not getting to a lot of the Reds, unfortunately, at the moment, but, someone like Jake Fraley is going to be solid play in a Cincy stack.
All right, Tim, how about you? Who do you like in the outfield?
Yeah, so Kyle Schwarber is my top overall outfielder. I don't think that'll surprise really anybody on the slate. I even prefer him like over guys like Judge and like Soto and all those guys. So Schwarber is my top overall play. Love getting to like Brandon Marsh. I think he's in a really, really good spot. I think these Washington righties, guys like Lane Thomas, guys like I guess James Wood is not a righty, but I love him in tournaments. I love this national stack. I think they're going to be really, really underowned. So I do like some of these higher end national outfielders for GPPs. Reese Hines for the Reds at 3,300. This guy is just on fire. He should have opportunities to produce. Same thing with Will Benson batting 9. I really like both those guys, despite their really poor lineup spots. Really like TJ's Butler call would lead off. I think Butler's probably your value cash game outfielder if you need to go super low. I don't know if you have to, at least the way I'm building that. You don't really have to do that, but if you do, then Butler would be the guy.
Couldn't agree more on that one. Couple other names I'll just throw out there that I like here in the outfield as well. Jackson Chourio, I like quite a bit. Wyatt Langford batting cleanup today. Masataka Yoshida batting 3rd for the Red Sox. He started slow, but he's been heating up a lot more lately. Since we were just talking about the Nationals anyways, and we're just a few likes short from a Spidey Bomb, come on, 3 more people. Hit that like button right now so we can get a Spidey Bomb. Number 2, you can get him for plus 550. It is CJ Abrams as Spidey Bomb number 2 today. Tim, you already teased one of your taters. Who do you got today to hit a home run?
Well, I got one so far, and that's Bryson Stott, and he's plus 650 on BetMGM and plus 600 on DK. But I'll find another one before the show ends.
Taylor, how about you? Who's hitting a home run today?
Should probably unmute. I think Jake Berger is not likely, but that's who I'd go with. Let's see. Sal Perez at Fenway, I think looks good. And let's go with Reese Hoskins for the Brewers.
Ooh, I like that Hoskins one quite a bit. If you got some questions, get them in the Roto-Grinders live stream Discord chat. I will be checking there first, and then after that, I will be going to the YouTube chat. So make sure you're getting your questions in. We have 20 minutes to lock. Am I correct on that? We have 20 minutes to lock still. There's no way we're going to
minutes.
There's no way we are going to be lasting here all the way until lock. Seems like we're getting out a little early today. Looking for some questions here. FanDuel cash, Tim. Lawrence Butler or Juan Yepez?
I think it's Butler.
So I answered for you here in chat, but they were specifically asking you, Tim. So I'll bring it up just in case I was wrong. Cash game pitchers for DraftKings today. You going Scott and Gavin Williams?
I am. I think it's either Scott Gavin Williams or Scott Grayson Rodriguez, but I'm going the Williams route.
Diego Torres asking about a mini stack using Xavier Edwards, Brian Delacruz, and Jazz Chisholm. Taylor, you all good with that?
I am all good with that.
Tim, who are your favorite bats from Philly?
Basically all the lefties and Trey Turner. So
Taylor,
basically all of them. Sorry.
Taylor, would you be okay with Yordan Alvarez today in FanDuel Cash?
Yeah, a guy like that you can always play in any format and feel pretty good about it. So no qualms with him whatsoever.
Why do I feel like I didn't see him in the lineup? Am I just a fool?
Yeah, he's in there.
He's in there.
Yeah, so I'm just a fool. That's fine. Who do you like better, Tim? Brandon Marsh or Jazz Chisholm?
I guess it's weird to say, but I'm gonna go Brandon Marsh.
Candelario, Vientos, or Hines at third base on FanDuel, Taylor?
I think Candelario is probably the right answer, but Hines has a ton of power as we've seen. So if it's a tournament, I might go Hines, but if it's more of a cash single entry, it's probably Candelario.
We got 3 questions in a row about the A's. One of them is Eric Johnson, so we won't count it and say 2 things in a row about the A's. I know you like them. Was that Tim or Taylor who said they like the A's today?
Me, sadly.
Yeah.
Are you okay with using them as a full stack, or would you prioritize using them as a mini stack?
I have them as full plenty, but I have a little bit of both. Like I'm pairing them with the Phillies quite a bit, just kind of an expensive stack with a cheap one. So ideally mini stack, I think, but in a large field, I'm fine with full.
Is Hines viable on FanDuel at 3K? Yes, absolutely. Tim, Butler and Brandon Lau, or Hines and Giloff?
Assuming that is a GPP.
I think that DraftKings, yeah, but
yeah,
probably GPP.
I guess it's Hines Giloff.
Alvarez or Harper. If you're in it, look at your team. Is it going to be highly owned? Because Harper is going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate, but he's also one of the best raw points plays on the slate. He's going to project for more. He's in a way better spot. Alvarez is going to be much lower owned today. So if the rest of your lineup is chalky and you're playing in a tournament, maybe you want to pivot to some Alvarez, but Butler is the kind of objective better play from a raw points perspective today. 3 different lineups, 3 different stacks on FanDuel GPP. Who would you play, Tim?
3 different stacks on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go Phillies, definitely. I'd go Reds, and then I think I'd go Brewers.
Yeah, those would be my 3 as well. How about you, Taylor?
Agree on the Phillies. I agree on the Brewers, and then I must be loyal to Oakland, I guess, as number 3.
Who's your favorite starting pitcher for a large field GPP, Taylor, on DraftKings?
I mean, I don't really feel good about anybody except Scott, who is going to be, I think, pretty chalky. So I guess I would say Grayson Rodriguez, but I don't think Arrighetti is like a completely insane cheapie to play either, because I don't think he's going to get any ownership at all.
Tim, how about you?
I mean, it's definitely Scott, but then if you want something that's going to be really low owned, I think it's Heel for me.
That's what I was going to say. If you want a lot of upside, it's risky, but if you want a lot of upside and very low ownership, you want to play Cutter Crawford and Luis Heel together. They could each get you 25 points and for a combined 15% ownership today. You can play any stack you want with them regardless of ownership. It's not like we really need salary today. You mix in some Lawrence Butlers and things like that. It's easy to do. I think that's a very interesting way to go about tournaments today. Two super low-owned pitchers that have the upside. Would you game stack the Washington-Milwaukee game? I'll look at the weather. I don't think there's any particular need to game stack that one specifically. They're both good stacks on their own, but they don't provide any correlation together, stacking them side by side. What do you think about?
They're both pretty interesting stacks, though. Like,
I agree. I like both of
game.
those stacks.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. But it's probably more of a large field thing because I don't know if you need all that leverage because I don't think either is going to be super, super popular. So single entry, I probably wouldn't do that, but large field, yeah.
Can you take shots on Mitchell Parker on DraftKings versus the Brewers? I think you can. I have him about 10-15% just because he's going so low owned. I like the Brewers better, but you can take shots on Mitchell Parker. That's it for YouTube. Going back to Discord. Favorite FanDuel GPP pitcher, Tim? Outside of Christian Scott, we'll say.
FanDuel GPP pitcher?
Yeah.
I think it's Heel.
Adames, Turner, and Rooker, or Lane Thomas, Pete Alonso, and CJ Abrams, Taylor?
I think the first one sounds a little better.
All right, going back to YouTube, we got still 13 minutes before lock. $3,500 for a FanDuel cash utility player, Tim, and they already have Lane Thomas.
3,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Probably Semien or India. Oh, actually, no. Go Pete Alonso. He's only 3,200. Definitely Pete Alonso.
I like that quite a bit. Somebody's asking, where is Chief Justice? Will's got the weekend off. He's not here today. I'm not sure what he's up to, but he's not on the show. Who's your favorite low-owned stud on FanDuel today, Taylor? Large field GPPs, very low-owned. Who do you like? His favorites are Abrams and J-Ram, specifying.
Yeah, I think those are good calls. I would add Yordan to the mix, and Gunnar Henderson always feels like he's low-owned, and today is another day like that, so add him to the pile too.
Eric Johnson wondering how many A stacks I have in 150 lineups. I don't know because I reset the settings for on Lineup HQ for screen sharing, and so it also reset my lineups, and so I don't actually know how many I have. QQ, is the DK Pick 6 Firefox extension the same as the Roto Grinders DK Tools extension? I am not.
I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, I don't believe that is the same thing, but the DK Pick 6 one, you can find it in the shoot, I don't actually have it in this description. So we'll if you go to Roto Grinders DK Pick 6 extension, there's like a whole browser extension tab. It is one of the ones in there, and it'll specify Pick 6. Blade or Seth Brown, Taylor?
I think it's Blade, but yeah, I like them both, but Blade.
Are the Marlins chalk again? Somewhat, but like not aggressively. It's Gavin Williams on DK. Yes, Eric, you've been here the whole time, and we've talked up Gavin Williams the whole time. Yes, Gavin Williams on DK. If anybody has questions, get them in. We got 10 minutes before lock. Get your lineups in. We will work on. We might end up getting out of here a little bit early though. With we just kind of breeze through it. It's not a big slate, and we just kind of ripped through it a little bit quicker than expected. Maybe should have started the slate a little bit later on this one, but Tim, why don't you kind of re-go over? Actually, no, Tim, you did the first one. So Taylor, why don't you re-go over a little bit of a pitching breakdown before we get out of here? Give a few more people time to ask some questions.
Yeah, so Christian Scott is probably the default SP1 against Colorado. After that, there's no certainty at all. Gavin Williams looks pretty good. Edward Cabrera, if you want to stomach him, at significant ownership, I think he's interesting enough for the strikeout upside. Arrighetti, another cheapie, I think is okay. Grayson Rodriguez, Luis Heel, maybe more tournament plays at the high end. Cutter Crawford, you could throw onto that list. And Andrew Abbott, I think, is okay in the mid range, but there's really nothing I like at all beyond Christian Scott. So after that, it's kind of a crapshoot.
All right. No full lineups in chat, please. That is not something that is allowed. So no full lineups there. Tim, what are your take on Tyler Phillips?
I mean, I don't think he's that great of a play. So I guess I'm not a fan.
We're not sure about pitch count, but I know Christy is very interested in Tyler Phillips today. I think she might have wrote him up as her top pitcher. Pitched 4 innings in his last game, struck out 7 in a much tougher matchup. So I think there's upside, but it's a lot of unknown too. I would like him more if he wasn't picking up the ownership.
I was going to say a lot of unknown and a lot of ownership. That's my, so.
Favorite starting pitcher and a favorite in a FanDuel single entry, it's Scott or Gavin Williams. Bobby Witt and Vinny P or Ellie in India, Taylor?
What was the first one?
Bobby Witt and Vinny P.
Yeah, I think I'd go with that one, but both are good.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Diego. That's we are very happy you're joining us in the chat and you have discovered us. So don't sweat that whatsoever. That is no problem. Just got to refresh the rules for those who don't know it. What's the top overall stack? It's the Phillies. Phillies are the top overall stack today. Thoughts on Jeff McNeil on DraftKings, Tim? Basically never. Is that the answer?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I never have interest in him, so no, I'm all set.
Only 2 Spidey bombs today. Yeah, we're dropping them every 50 likes, and we aren't at 150 likes yet. So if we can get up to 150, there will be a 3rd Spidey bomb. Alfonso's asking about the taters and the Spidey bombs. He got here late. For me, the Spidey bombs were Lawrence Butler, and the second one was CJ Abrams. Tim's tater was Bryson Stott, and Taylor, who were your home run calls again?
Berger, Hoskins, and Sal Perez, I believe.
And I'm gonna add, if you got bet MGM, I'm gonna go Brandon Marsh plus 625.
Andrew Martinez asking, is there any games you would consider as for a game stack? You don't need to game stack. There's no reason to game stack unless a game is wind way blowing way out. Then you would be interested in it, but we don't really have that a game that stands out like far and above the others. It's pretty good hitting weather across the board. A's and what's with all these game stack questions? Do you like an A's and Philly stack, Taylor? Yeah, that's basically your top pairing of the day.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit.
Jazz Chisholm or James Wood on DraftKings, Tim?
I think I'd go. Oh, they're both really good. I think I lean James Wood.
Yeah, it's Mr. Richard is right. If a game stack happens organically, that's completely fine. I'm not saying don't stack teams in the same game. I'm just saying it's irrelevant whether they're in the same game or not, unless there's some very positive weather. But the Phillies and Oakland, 2 teams in the same game we like today. Milwaukee and Washington, 2 teams in the same game we like today. I'm gonna Dean says joining late, favorite game stack. Don't do this to me, Dean. I said I wanted questions to fill it out, but not just all this shenanigans thrown in the mix. DK Turney, Tim. Bedley? Not sure Bedley. Bedley?
Blade, probably.
Blade. Oh, yeah. There it is. Blade and Bohm or Berger and Schwarber?
The second one is better, but it's going to be extremely, extremely chalky going with those 2 guys. So maybe in a tournament, go the first one.
All right. That'll do it for another edition of MLB Crunch Time. We will be back tomorrow morning with another show. I believe it is myself, Taylor, and Cards for that one. or is it? It might even be the same people ran back. I can't remember. But make sure to tune in tomorrow as well. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of myself, Tim, Taylor, the Triple T formation. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Peace.